get a hold of someone or get their attention, or more importantly, when we want to find someone, we call them by a name. Now, we have names, baptismal names, legal names, nicknames, and generally our names are not names that we choose. They can be, but if somebody's trying to get a hold of us, and it's important, they're trying to find us and get our attention, they're going to call us by a more intimate name. Now, this difference between a legal name and the name that you know somebody by and you would call them came to my attention really this last week. On Thursday, I was on a conference call with my mother and brother out in Arizona concerning the legal documents for my father. And it was an interesting conversation there because the director who was talking to Mom and Dad realized my dad had this name with two middle names, Donald, Arthur, Terrence. But he never used those names, really. He had, since an early age, gone by the name of Terry. Somebody started calling him Terry at a young age, his mother, his father, somebody. And he's always been that, and only that, Terry. And so even some of his legal documents were signed Terry Merrell, or he might sign them D. Terry Merrell. But it was just that name, Terry. And if you wanted to get in touch with him or you wanted to call him, you'd call him Terry. Well, except for my brother and I, because we would call him Dad. Dad, hey Dad. You know, that's how we call somebody, a more intimate name, especially if we're trying to find them and get in touch with them or get a hold of them. Now, this same thing happens in the area of military aviation. I was a Marine pilot, and in aviation, you need to have a call sign because you're out there in the ether, in the air, and if somebody wants to call you or you want to call somebody, you need to have some sort of a call sign. Call signs are not names you choose. They're given to you based on, I guess, who you are, in a sense, or who people see you as, or maybe kind of fun. I was, in a sense, fortunate or unfortunate, depending on your perspective, to have two call signs. One of them was a tactical call sign, and the other one was a call sign I could use in public, because my tactical call sign could not be. That is an interesting story. I was down in Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico at the Officer Club, and this is like a day or two after I had finally become an aircraft commander. Young first lieutenant, I'm a big deal now. I'm an aircraft commander. In the helicopter world, there's two pilots. I've got enough flight time and hours and experience that I can sign for the aircraft and be in charge, and I'm a big deal. But it meant I needed a call sign, and I hadn't really been assigned one yet. And we're there at the Officer Club, and it just so happened that our wing commander, a two-star general, General Sullivan, was there, and we were having a celebration of my becoming an aircraft commander, and the general says, "So what's your call sign?" "General, I don't have a call sign." Well, that got him going, and he was a gregarious guy. "Well, I'll tell you what. You are blank." And I was blank forevermore. And in the tactical world, that's what I used. And we used our call signs to get a hold of somebody, to find them. Okay? And we would then have to acknowledge that we were found. "I'm here." And then we would be told what to do, and we would execute it. And it was, in a sense, an intimate name. Unique, that kind of told us who we are. Well, in today's gospel, that's what Jesus does with Peter. His name, not chosen by him, but given to him by his family, was Shimon Bar Jonah, or as we would say, Simon the son of John. But that didn't tell who he was. And Jesus saw who he was. And 2,000 years before Dwayne Johnson, he said, "You are the rock." In Latin, Petra. Peter, Greek Cephas. That's you. That's who you are. From now on, I'm calling you the rock. You're the rock, and you'll always be the rock. When I need you, I'm going to say, "Rock." Peter. An intimate name given to him by God. And the name that when he heard it, he would know that God was calling him. That same situation occurs in our first reading. Samuel was given to his name by his mother Hannah, who was inspired by God. He was a gift from God to Hannah because of her prayer and her faith. And the name means son or child of God. Of God. Samuel, of God. He was of God. And that's who he was. But he didn't recognize it. And so when God called him by that intimate name, Samuel, 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 Samuel's like, what's going on here? I don't know. He goes to Eli. And Eli catches on. I'm not calling you, but I think I know who is. We all need Elis in our life. Because God calls us by an intimate name, using our whole senses, using the encounters we have with other people, and in the silence, when we're in quiet and we hear the voice of God. But we don't quite understand, or we don't really realize or have a revelation that it's God. So we need someone or some buddies to help us. We need each other. God gives us each other to give us direction, to help us discern God's call. We don't choose that name. God has chosen a name for us. And somehow he's calling us, using that name. It's more than a name. It's who we are. On Thursday morning, or Friday morning, I was having breakfast with my friend who preached yesterday at St. Max, and we were talking about this gospel, and he made a quip about this gospel, about the time when Andrew goes up to Peter and he says, "We found the Messiah." And Peter's response could have been, and certainly my response would have been, "I didn't know he was lost." And there's truth to that quip, because the Messiah is not the one who's lost. We are. And it's the Messiah, Christ, who's trying to find us. And he calls to us. And we try to listen. And when we hear, we have to acknowledge. When he is revealed and we see him, we acknowledge him. So just like in a military call sign, he calls us. We respond, "Here I am. What do you want? Speak, I will listen. And he tells us. And then we do what he asks. Just in the way of Samuel and the disciples. Here I am. Speak. Your servant is listening. Just like the song we sang to open. Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will